everybody, and welcome to episode 7 from season 2 of the Choose UCalgary podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Max Sturley, and I'm the digital recruiter here at the University of Calgary. If you're joining us for the first time, that's great. Welcome to the show where we cover essentials about programs, admissions, awards, and a bunch of things in the middle. So today's episode is going to be a little bit different. A couple weeks ago, the manager of Undergraduate Awards, Joel May, hosted a webinar to discuss everything you need to know about awards, from the application process on how to receive funding, and it also included a Q&A at the end of it. Over 70 students flooded in with some great questions, both super specific and general about the whole process. This podcast here will be that Q&A.
One thing, remember, if you have any questions, you can always call us. So 403-210-7625, or you can email us if you have a little bit more information or details that you need. Please email us, just ucawards@ucalgary.ca. And to really get more information, you can always go to our website. We have a searchable database with over 1,500 different awards there. You can look into those. You can see what the criteria is. You can see if you might be eligible for something. You can see the deadlines. It shows how to apply. It shows all pretty much the guidelines that you'll need to have. So if you just go to ucalgary.ca/awards, you'll find all of that information. And now I'll look through which questions we have.
So we'll start from the bottom up, just so everyone, we have a fair bit of time here to answer them. So Joel's going to just go through them as we got them in sequence. So go ahead, Joel.
So the first question Salim asks are the additional extracurricular activities required for the actual application. Yes, you do have to submit it in our Prestige Award application. It's important that you add that. The Prestige Award applications, because there's such a high dollar value, the donors really want to see how you will have an impact on the campus community outside of just academic merit. So it's important to include all your extracurricular activities. The next question is from Hamna, and it says, do school newspaper and leadership clubs work? Yes, for sure. Though that is making your community in your school better. So make sure you have that. Next one is from Ali. Ali says, is that 95% average over all of your courses? No, it is not. It's based on what you're being admitted with. So there's different admission requirements based on the program you're being admitted to. So if it's arts, it tends to be English, math, and then 2 other at least core subjects for early admissions, or 3 in total. But if it's engineering, you need English, math, physics, chemistry, and then 1 other.
And calculus.
And calculus, yes, you do. That's right. For engineering, you need calculus. Ryan asks, Prestige Awards apply to high school people, right? Yes, they definitely do. They're high school Prestige Awards. So if you're going to get admitted based on your high school grades, then you're eligible for it. If you're a transfer student, so if you've taken post-secondary somewhere else and transfer, unfortunately, we don't have the awards for you. It's all based on high school currently. Lynn asks, for the top 3 achievements, should it be personal, social, or academic? To be honest, that's up to you. If you can justify why it's your top 3 achievements, then by all means justify that. We want to see more of a larger breadth. We don't want to just see academics. So, but if it is academic, you can have that as well. It's whatever really resonates with you. So you're defining what your top 3 achievements are. What is important, what makes it important, and what did you really learn and gain out of that experience? The next one's admission question. I don't really know the answer to that. So it's how many seats are available for non-Albertans in engineering program. Max, we don't have anything that justifies how many outside of Alberta, do we?
That's correct. There's not a set number of seats available for non-Albertans. That's kind of a myth that can go around, whether it's a school fair or a presentation, but there's not a set number based on your region. There is a set number of seats for specific programs, but that's dependent on each faculty and the decisions that they make year to year. And that's also not a public number that is released. not even to the admissions team as well. So it's just something that is internal and not public knowledge.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Lynn asked, is volunteering at school considered, like in labs, library, etc., or should it be external? No, volunteering at your school is actually a good thing too. Some people don't have the opportunity to volunteer outside of their school, so make sure you include that as well. That's a great way of volunteering for sure. Kalechi, or is it Samuel? Samuel asks, for your reference, does it have to be one person? Yes, we only want one person to be your reference. You don't have to have multiple of them. Just think of who your best reference might be, or might be able to like shine the greatest light on you. Use that. Salim asks, are need-based aid allowed for international students? Yes, we have certain awards that are, or bursaries that are specific to Canadian citizens and permanent residents, but we have some that don't specify. So make sure you indicate your need, and then if you're an international student, we get international students who get bursaries all the time. So just because you're international doesn't mean you should actually not apply for them. Next question, are there award scholarships available for certain groups of students? Example, First Nations, women, etc. We don't really have any gender-specific awards. We try to alleviate that, but we do have some for certain populations. We have an Indigenous strategy here at the University of Calgary, and we're trying to increase Indigenous populations in our student groups. So we do have some Indigenous awards, and we do have some for certain groups or certain areas as well. Julie asks the next question, is financial aid based per semester? For example, would we put $5,000 if you have $25,000 RESP? That only allows that per semester. Excuse me. It's not per semester, due per academic year. So for the 8 months, how much will your resources be? Next question is, what do you want to see in a recommendation letter? We just want to see specifics. So if someone's being your reference and recommending you, if they have specific examples on the impact that you've made when you were in high school or outside in your group, we want to see that clear examples of what you've done and the impact that it has. Next question is, can students complete their application in a longer period of time, or do we have to complete it once? Once you've submitted it, you've completed it. So make sure you submit before the deadline date, but you can wait until the deadline date if you want. So you can start working on it, save it, and then go back, and then the next day work on it a bit, and then save it, and then come back to it. I always recommend, think of it as like as if you're writing an essay in your course where you start working on it, then you go away, and then you come back to it and start working on it again, because then you can shine a little bit more light to it. The next question is, what if I intend to engage in volunteering organizations, clubs, etc., but don't achieve it before the deadline? You are able to put what you're going to do after the deadline, so you can just post-date it. So if you know that your club involvement doesn't start until, let's say, February or March, or it's over the summer, you can indicate that. We just might have to follow up with you on verifying that you actually achieve that. Simon asks, how many students are chosen for the Prestige Awards? There's multiple of them. So we have 2 for the Haskayne School of Business. So if you're looking at doing the Bachelor of Commerce degree, we have our NLE Leaders in Business, which is $80,000. We also have our Richard and Lois Haskayne Legacy Scholarship, which is $100,000. Then we have 9 Chancellor Scholarships, and those are $40,000. We have a total of 48 Prestige Awards for Schulich School of Engineering. And then we have 2 for Leaders in Health Science. And then we have 2 for specifically for international entering students. So there's quite a bit. Lynn asks, are those applying earlier at an advantage? For awards, as long as you make the deadline, then you meet it. So if you applied for Prestige Awards today, it wouldn't vary the impact on if you applied on December 1st. It doesn't make a difference. We have those set deadline dates. As long as you apply prior to that deadline, you'll have the same chance as anyone who applies really early. The big thing though too is applying for admissions is important to do early. Apply as soon as you can for admissions, because then there's a greater chance that you get admitted by early admissions.
That's correct. The sooner you complete your application, it's just more times that we will look at your credentials and more times we will evaluate you. So definitely apply as soon as you can.
Devin asks, so Devin's been trying to complete the high school award application. It keeps showing, according to your birth date, the year your high school graduation is outside the expected range. The message in closing, is there a way to, okay. Devin, what I need you to do is, can you email my team directly? We can walk you through that. We can give you some screen captures and everything and how to fix that. Devin, you can email us at ucawards@ucalgary.ca. We have lots of time to fix this, so it's not an urgent thing, but we can show you how to do that. My team will actually help you through that for sure.
So Devin, I just posted that email just at the top of the chats in case you need to reference it.
So the next question is, I'm an international student, so whether I write homestay address or my parents' house address, which is in another country. As an international student, we want to know that your home address is in another country, so please indicate that. It just helps because that's where your permanent address is. You can say your current address is here in the country, but your permanent address is actually international. Samuel asks, using myself as an example, what if the results when applying aren't out yet, but you have another result that is ready in time? Are you still considered as an applicant, or you just have the results when you're applying? Well, what we do is, for when we actually do the evaluation of the applications for awards, we look at whatever your admissions average is at that time. So if you're admitted based on your IGCSE, then we will use that. But if you have your SSE, then we will use that as well. So it's whatever is available at that time. So Lynn is asking more of an admissions question. So the averages we use for awards are all based on admissions. So I'll let Max answer this one.
Sorry, I'm just reading now. So Lynn, your best course of action here is to submit both. I don't have, actually that's just, give me 1 second. I can walk you through just for a moment. I just want to stay on topic with awards here, but there are two options for IGCSE students. So when you are applying, we will accept two scenarios here. So just bear with me. So we will either accept 2 A-level courses and 3 O-level courses, or AS-A1 courses, or we will accept 4 AS level courses plus 1 O-level. So the more documentation you have in that regard, it's just better for the admission team here, so they can look at everything you have and make the proper assessment.
The next question is from Anna. She asks, can you apply for Alberta Student Aid even if you're not an Alberta resident? The answer is no. So if you're from another province, you apply for student aid as well as scholarship that are through your student aid. So for example, if you're from Ontario, you apply for OSAP. If you're from BC, it's BC Student Aid. Saskatchewan has an integrated student loan program. So you would apply for the province that you're from. And if you're international, you have to look at student aid based on that, your country of residence. Next question is, I accidentally put something on my application but don't want it there. is somehow to delete it, you can go, if you've submitted your application, you can please email ucawards@ucalgary.ca, because the deadline hasn't passed. We can actually reactivate your application. So please just email us. Again, it's ucawards@ucalgary.ca. So Jillian asks more an admission-based question based on the core courses. So about the core courses, for percentage, do you guys calculate that from our transcripts? Because I was never asked to submit core courses grades. It's all from your transcripts. So when you submit your transcripts for early admissions, we're going to look at your grade 11 or 20 level courses. So we'll receive that all from your transcripts. Jan asks, if a student doesn't have any extracurricular activities but want to be assessed for Seymour academic excellence, does the Prestige Award application have to be submitted? Yes. Even if you don't have any extracurricular activities for the Seymour academic excellence, you still need to submit it. You don't have to put your extracurricular because it doesn't actually get calculated in, but we need you to apply prior to that December 1st deadline to show that you're actually wanting to have that. Follow up with Jan has another question. I'm unsure whether I will be living with my parents or the university residence. Which option should I select, living with parents or away? Select away. It's always better for you, if you don't know for sure, to select away, because then the calculation is based on a higher dollar value. So if you're unsure if you're going to stay at home or if you're going to be living in residence, always select away. Samuel asks, do programs like the Duke of Edinburgh program count for your application? Yes. Indicate the Duke of Edinburgh in your extracurricular activities. It's really important. Benjamin asks, does the 95% award apply when we get accepted for early admissions based on grade 11 marks? Yes. It's whatever you get admitted with. So if you're getting admitted with based on early admissions and it's 95% or above, you'll have that. We never rescind the President's Admission Scholarship. And what we do too is, if, for example, you get early admitted and it's 92%, and then your final admissions average, which we receive near the end of July, is above 95, we'll actually give it to you then. So it's a good thing to remember that maybe in grade 11 you did good, but you didn't do as good as you're doing right now in your 30 levels or your grade 12 levels. There's still a chance of getting that $5,000 when it pretty much in August. Sydney asks, when should the Alberta most current transcripts disappear from your to-do list if you go to a school that is part of Apply Alberta? So this is in your student portal in your My UCalgary, and this is a to-do list item for admissions based, not awards per se. It should be there pretty much until your final transcript is here. Is it not, Max?
So we will knock it off your to-do list initially once we receive the first set of marks in mid-November. But Joel is correct where it may stay on your student center for quite some time, simply because we do automatically and we do require those updated marks. So I believe after mid-November, we pull in January and then also in March. And then of course, when we get your final marks, end of July.
So Precious asks, since there is an estimated grade to put in when applying, what happens if we don't meet that in grade 12? So like if my grade 11 math was 90% and my grade 12 was 82%, do they take away my application if you got in? This is more an admissions question.
Yeah, so I'll briefly touch on this, Precious. Basically, when you apply initially through Apply Alberta, you can enter self-reported grades. We won't look at that simply because we pull your transcripts automatically. As an example, if you receive an early offer of admission and suddenly we get to your final marks in July and they've dropped significantly, you may lose your offer. So it's best practice to just simply be straight up with those or be honest with those estimated grades, but we can admit based on those estimated grades, depending on the curriculum, but we will ultimately look at those final marks to remove that conditional piece of an offer.
The next question is, do I need to list Chinook Learning on my high school list as I took a summer course there? Yes, you do. The next question from Precious is, are there any awards for an average over 90%, or does it have to be 95? Currently, it has to be 95 or above, but I do have some leeway to change that as the year progresses. There's no guarantee on it. So, for example, last year, everyone who got 92% to 94.9 received $2,000. But there's no guarantee on that. It's really based on budget restrictions and certain things like that. But I can guarantee that anyone above 95 will receive $5,000. Ryan asks, are there specific awards for Saskatchewan high school students? Yes, there are a few. It tends to be rural, and it depends. Most of them are engineering. But you can definitely look for those. My recommendation is just to go to ucalgary.ca/awards and then search for awards through our searchable database and just enter a keyword as Saskatchewan and it should list there. The next question are AP classes taken into consideration when calculating average for awards? Theoretically, AP students would be getting higher marks in regular classes. Currently, no, it does not make a difference. AP classes are really going to help you when you're a student here because you'll be able to get transfer credit based on AP classes, but it really doesn't impact your admissions average or your average for awards. So it really comes into play when you're actually a student here because you'll have less courses to take.
I just want to jump in quickly. I noticed a couple of questions coming through the general chat feature just to keep things just in queue, if you will. If you wanted to submit a question, you would just click the 3 dots near the chat option. That way we can just see everything all in the same area, just so we don't miss your questions.
Tessa.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Tessa asks, I submitted my transcript, but it only has my grade 11 marks. Should I resubmit with grade 12 interim marks? No. Just submit your grade 11 marks. That's fine. We want to see completed courses, not your interim grades. So you can be admitted solely based on your grade 11 marks for early admissions. We don't want to see your grade 10 marks until you've completed the course. So yeah, just grade 11 is fine. Lynn asks, can gap year takers apply, or should I currently be in the last year of high school? Yes, gap year you can apply for sure. If you took a gap year of 5 years, but you haven't done any post-secondary, you're still eligible. So it really is based on what you're being admitted, your average base for admission. So if you're being admitted primarily based on your high school grades, then it doesn't matter if you're completing in 2020 or if you completed in 2017. You'll have the same chance. What Keely says. So Keely asks, if you can still use your grade 12 marks, do you just apply for the 95 average scholarship after you get the final marks? The 95 average is really based on what you're being admitted with. So if you're admitted in early admissions and you have a 95 or above, you'll get the $5,000. But if you don't have that, later when we get your final marks, if you have 95 or above, then you'll get it at that time. Laura asks, are there any specific BSc prestige awards? So our Chancellor's Scholarship, we have 9 of them. 5 of them go to science students and 4 of them go to art students. So those are the specific ones we have currently. But there's also the Schulich Leader that if you're taking science, I'd recommend you talk to your counselor about to be able to get nominated for that.
If you're still considering your 2 choices on your application, consider coming down to campus for a faculty event to learn about our programs and future outlooks. Faculty members and representatives will be at every presentation to answer your questions and walk you through their specific admission process. Head over to choose.ucalgary.ca to find your event today.
Benjamin asks, is the 95% award one time or is it available to apply each year based on university GPA? It is only a one-time, it's not renewable, but there are other options. So if you have a 95% GPA when you're here as a student, which means you'll be a 4.0, you're almost guaranteed a continuing student award as you progress. Having a 4.0 average is a great thing. You'll be on the dean's list. There will be lots of opportunities for you. You'll be able to be involved in a lot of the research opportunities that are here. So there's lots of other avenues to get money and to get exposure and different things like that if you maintain a 95% average here at the university.
Jan, I noticed that you submitted one question in just the general chat, so we can go with that first. How many people apply to biomedical sciences and how many people generally get accepted? I guess I can answer this since it's more of an admission/seat question. It changes year to year, but generally speaking, biomedical science is fairly competitive. I don't have a specific number for you as it's not publicized to myself, but it is a very competitive program compared to some of the others. So you're probably looking at a low 90s as a starting point from an admission perspective. And then your second question here, Joel, you can take it away.
So another question, I finished high school in my home country, but technically it's grade 11. I'm guessing that's the Philippines, because that's normally where I see it. So I did some upgrading at Satan U of C. Do I need to put them in under my previous high school? Yes. Try to indicate that, or you might have to put it as your post-secondary. The issue you're going to have is because you have post-secondary experience, you'll get admitted as a your initial application will be as a transfer student. I recommend that you reach out to admissions to actually have that updated so you're just doing upgrading, because then it'll come up as high school and then you'll be able to apply for awards. They normally catch this, but rather than wait, I would recommend reaching out and just say that you're doing upgrading, so you need access. You can either reach out to admissions or you can reach out to us too. So if you just go to UC Awards at ucalgary.ca, we can also make sure that you have access to the applications as well. Eric asks, when do you send out early admissions? Middle of November is when it's going to start. So it's less than a month away. So Lynn asks, are there specific awards for war-zoned country nationals? Currently there isn't. We look at all internationals the same, regardless of whether or not there was conflict in the area or not.
One question that did get filtered through from Santiago, are letters of recommendation required to apply for scholarships?
Santiago, the answer is letters of recommendation are only for prestige awards. So those are our high dollar value. For the rest of them, you don't need a letter of recommendation. Tessa asks, what are you guys looking for when reading scholarship admission essays? We're looking for impact. We're looking for impact for yourself as well as others in your community or group, or where we really want to see how you will make the community here at the University of Calgary better, how you will make the lives of others better, how you're collaborative, how you really are supportive of others. So it's really, really about impact. So next question is from Ali. Ali asks, are there awards for current military members? There are, but the caveat is they have to be Canadian military members. So if you're part of the Royal Canadian Military of any form, there are definitely some scholarships and awards for you.
You got one more from Alexis.
Alexis asks, early admissions, how many people generally get accepted for nursing in the first round in November?
Great question, Alexis. I would love to know the answer too. It's not something that is publicized to me in the recruitment/admission office. What I can say is a smaller number, given the fact that the admission or the early admission average is slightly higher. You're looking at about to ballpark it between an 89 and 91. But again, that's totally dependent on the amount of seats that the faculty are making available, and additionally, that changes year to year depending on a whole number of things that are above my pay grade.
The next question is, should I submit scores like PAT or the SAT? You could definitely submit those. Those can impact your admissions. So you can get admitted solely on SAT scores. So definitely submit those.
Yeah, there's no harm to submitting them if they apply to the program that you're seeking out. We can potentially use it. If not, it's just another piece of documentation we have on file. So it definitely doesn't hurt to submit those.
Ali asks about the Canadian service members scholarships you can search for them in the searchable database. It might be under the Royal Canadian Legion because that's who usually sponsors them. But it's if you can't find them, please just email my team, just UCawards@ucalgary.ca, and we can actually show you the links exactly where those are. But I'm almost positive if you look under Royal Canadian Legion or just Legion in the searchable database, you should be able to find it.
Couple more questions coming in. Just wanted to mention to you guys that Joel and I will be here for about another 10 minutes. So if you have any burning questions, now is the time to ask. There's a couple here that are more admission-based questions. If you have award questions, go nuts. I'll do my best to answer these admission ones. So
I can answer this one too.
Yeah, go nuts.
So the question from Aya is, do you use grades from Apply Alberta or do you get a transcript from your school? We will use the grades from your transcript from your school. We don't use the or the anticipated grades that you indicate on Apply Alberta. We'll actually use what's on the transcript. Well, Simon asks, I heard U of C wants to have an engineering physics program next year. Is that true? If so, what do I do to apply in at that moment? So for engineering, you actually don't pick your major or your concentration until year 2. So if you're looking at we currently don't have the engineering physics program, so I would actually reach out to the School of Engineering to see if that is actually true, because both Max and I haven't heard that yet. I think it'd be awesome if they do, because I know there is kind of a demand for it. But if that is the case, they'll probably advise you to apply, because you at least can complete your first year of general engineering and then transition into the engineering physics if it's available for next year. But again, Simon, I recommend reaching out to the Schulich School of Engineering to figure out if that actually is true. Max, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just to add to Joel's point about general engineering in first year, you kind of get placed into blocks and then you take foundational courses in many disciplines where you then choose to specialize. The specialization process, whether you go into geomatics, software, electrical, whatever, it's all the same. It's essentially based on either your admission GPA or your GPA that you receive in your first year of study. And that's kind of how it's done. It can fluctuate a little bit on that piece year to year, but you don't, like Joel said, you don't specialize until your second year. So it's on your application, you would select engineering first year common. And then once you start your studies, that's when you would start worrying about where you end up. And I guess I'll take this one. This is Eric's question. What is the engineering admission average in 2019? We asked students to have at least a mid-80s if you're considering applying. Last year, the admission average, the final admission average for students was an 84%. But again, that can totally fluctuate. We've seen it in years past where it is certainly higher than that. And one rough example, the computer science admitting average has gone up in the last few years at about 9%. So it really can change depending on a whole number of different things.
Jillian asks, if I took a gap year, will my grade 11 marks still be considered for early admission? Jillian, the answer is no, because you've completed your grade 12. So they'll be using your grade 12 marks for admissions and not grade 11. Lynn asks, are recommendation letters preferred from an academic director or from a teacher? Lynn, it's completely up to you. Whoever can shine the best light and show concrete examples of what you've achieved, that's the one I would choose. So if your academic director doesn't know you as well, then definitely pick the teacher. We don't look at who it is. The only thing we look for is it a family member or not. This is an admissions one, so.
Yeah, so Tessa asks, I applied for Bachelor of Arts and chose psychology and sociology as first and second choices. Will I be able to change those specific major choices? And if so, when should I do that? So you have until March 1st on your application to alter those choices. After March 1st, we don't allow any more changes, simply just due to the time that you have to choose. I will say that if you're thinking about making changes, I would do them sooner. Just at the fact that if you receive an offer, as an example for yourself in sociology, and then you decide that's something you don't want to take and you switch, you will lose your seat in that regard. So it's definitely something to think about as you go throughout this process. I did notice one question on the side. Hang on here. Kale asks, is the engineering program quite competitive? Short answer is yes, it's very competitive. It filled up in the first week of May last year, and we, depending on seat availability, will give out offers as late as mid-August. So that kind of gives you an idea of how quickly that program filled up. Just want to see if there's one other one. I think that was it there. So yeah, just Dana's question here.
Dana asks, is financial need determined by my own financial information or my parents? It's just Dan. Sorry, Dan. The easy answer is it's based on your own financial information. We do ask if there's going to be a parental contribution, but you can put 0 as your parental contribution. So it's really based on what resources you will have. We don't have an expectation that your parents are going to help you. So if they're not going to help you, please have that. The question is, I think this is more an admissions, but do we have to reapply after first year for engineering? You don't reapply. I think there is a process for receiving your constant specialization, but it's not an actual formal application.
Yep, that's correct. You won't have to pay another, as an example, $125 or $145 to apply. It's just done through the faculty, where they will essentially assess your GPA in your first courses that you take, which is 5 in fall, 5 in winter. So, but no, in short, there's no, not another application process.
Ryan asks, just for clarity, prestige awards are by default based on 95% and above. And if the scholarship budget varies, it can be lower than 95. Ryan, it's not the prestige awards. That's our automatic admission scholarship, our president's admission scholarship. So the name's a little bit similar, but it's president and not prestige. Prestige, pretty much the lowest average we had for our prestige award recipients last year was 88, and that was for our Sturley School of Engineering prestige awards. But for our president's admission scholarship, the automatic admission scholarship of $5,000, that is for 95% or above. Carly asks, what can recommendation letters go towards? It really goes towards your prestige award application. So when the selection committee reviews all of the application, part of it is we review the recommendation letter as well. If you need to submit it somewhere, you can just send it to award docs at ucalgary.ca. So awddocs@ucalgary.ca.
There was one question here that came in a little earlier, kind of related to more so once you start university, but can majors be changed in the first year? Absolutely. It really depends on what major you are thinking of, but and each faculty has different requirements for transfer, but short answer is yes, you can absolutely, if you suddenly take your first semester and you don't like it, you can absolutely apply it to other programs.
Okay, this one is kind of an admissions question, but the question is, some of my courses run a full year, so you have a full year course. Because of this, some of my final marks won't be available until at the end of the school year. Which marks will be used to be considered for prestige awards? Because you have linear courses, so for the whole year, what you can do is you can submit anticipated or interim marks for those linear courses. You'll have to reach out to admissions to actually do that, or actually do it through your my.ucalgary.ca portal. They will use the interim marks for those linear courses for admission requirements, and that will impact your prestige awards. So if your interim courses are quite high, or interim marks are quite high, that's going to have a great impact on your admissions average.
Juliana asked, how competitive is the education program? And just as a friendly reminder, 3 minutes here before Joel and I have to dip. So if you have any last second questions, feel free. So Juliana, again, how competitive is the education program? In short, it is fairly competitive, but it will range in terms of admitting average depending on the teachable subject that you decide to go into, as well as if you decide to take a concurrent program where you would also have to meet the admitting average of that other program. So it's totally dependent on the options, and there are a gamut of them. So
yeah, an example of that is, let's say you want to be an English teacher, but you also want to get a BA or a Bachelor of Arts in English as well. So you have to meet the admission requirements for both. Same with if it's science. If you're looking at doing physics and want to be a science teacher, then you have to have the admissions average for both. So it can be competitive that way. And asks, how competitive is Bachelor of Commerce program? It's quite competitive. We have a quite renowned Haskayne School of Business, so it's quite popular.
Yep, yeah. Absolutely. And I mentioned this similar to engineering. Haskayne, the School of Business, was another one that filled up on the earlier side. So it's definitely good to get that application in sooner. It did have a lower admitting average than engineering as that one example, but that doesn't necessarily make it less competitive. We get a very high volume of applicants specifically to Haskayne.
Tessa asks, what scholarships and bursaries are there if you've done lots of volunteering in high school? There's quite a few. I can't really specifically say which ones there are because we have over 400 different awards that are included in our high school awards application. Tessa, my recommendation is to actually just look in our searchable database and just type in a keyword search as volunteer, and then you'll see a whole list of them. You can also enter in the searchable database as a filter what year you're entering. So select first, because it'll show the list of all the awards that are for those who are doing volunteering who are entering this year. So that's my recommendation. And if you have any questions, again, you can email ucawards@ucalgary.ca.
Great. And I think that we just hit 5 o'clock, so we are going to head out for this presentation. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your interest in the UC, and as well your patience throughout this presentation, as we definitely know there are buffering issues. From my end, I'm going to be certainly in touch with Webinar Jam for the next few days to sort this out. The replay of this video will be posted on our YouTube channel, as Joel mentioned. That's Choose UCalgary. You can also find us on Facebook under University of Calgary Future Students. Also on Instagram at choose.ucalgary, where you can connect directly with a recruiter who can help you out with some admission specific questions. But that's all for me. Joel, do you have any last second things to say? Or?
No, just enjoy your day. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We have teams of people that can actually help you with any questions you have. So don't be afraid to reach out.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you for the next one. Cheers. Thanks again for tuning into the podcast, and as always, you can scroll down in your feed to check out the rest of our catalog. You can learn more about awards in the link below, and the apps are open now, so make sure you get those out of the way so you can receive funding. You've been listening to the Choose UCalgary podcast. I'm Max Sturley, and I'll see you next time.